Potash is one of the unseen critical minerals that Canada is fortunate to have in significant quantities and that the world desperately wants. So this is a huge advantage to Canada. It's a huge advantage to Saskatchewan. It's a business that we at Buffalo have always wanted to be in, and our technology allows us to do it. I believe everyone who is sort of forward facing should seek exposure to the commodity, and I think Buffalo is the way to go.
Buffalo Potash is an emerging Saskatchewan-based potash developer pursuing a modular approach to selective solution mining through its patented horizontal line drive technology on its Disley project. CEO Steve Halabura is here to tell us the story and the numerous high-value catalysts expected this coming year. I'm Martin Gagel with Market Radius Research. Please remember this is neither a recommendation nor investment advice. We're here to learn about the company. Steve, welcome and thanks for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation, Martin. I appreciate the opportunity to tell you and your followers about potash. I will give you a bit about our story, tell you a bit about potash, what our plans are, and why potash is important, more important than the attention that it has gotten in the past. So I can start with going through our deck, our standard disclaimer. Everyone's seen that before, I'm quite sure. Corporate overview. What's our value proposition? We are a mining company. We intend to mine and produce potash. Potash is a fertilizer. More importantly, it's also become a geopolitical commodity, and it is one of those mineral products that Canada makes that is needed worldwide. And I'll explain that in a bit more detail in the next slide. We've got 5 things that I believe will make Buffalo a winner as an emerging potash developer. One, we are adjacent to producing potash solution mines, right next door to 2 of the biggest potash solution mines in the world. Secondly, in Saskatchewan, potash is not an exploration story like gold or silver or uranium. It's a mature basin. The geology is well understood. It's not so much geology and exploration as it is engineering and development. Third, one of our key advantages is we've developed a modular mining technology, and I'll explain that a bit later in the deck because this really does make a difference in terms of what we're planning to do and how we plan to play on the global potash marketplace. I take great pride in the team that we put together. I respect them. We've got some of the best people, not just on the engineering and geological side, but also on the capital markets finance side. I like to say, Martin, I'm just the arm waver. We've got a great team that does the hard work behind the scenes, and we've got multiple assets that allow us to scale once Disley is up and running and increase production to match market size. Those of you who know potash know that it is a absolutely critical nutrient for the world's production of food crops. You'll also know that Canada, specifically Saskatchewan, produced 32% of the global potash production. There's about an equal 32 to 34% produced by Russia and Belarus, and then smaller countries make up the balance. Saskatchewan is the key player. It has the largest reserves of potash in the world. I like to say Saskatchewan it's the Saudi Arabia of potash. And with Buffalo, we're settled right in the heart of it. Potash now has become geopolitical, and a lot of people don't realize it's a critical mineral, but it is. In Canada, it is a critical mineral because of its need for agricultural production. It's got a compounded annual growth rate anywhere from 2.5% per year to about 4.5, 4.9% if you're really optimistic. And the global trade is about 65 million tons. Saskatchewan's about a third of that. So it is a large global commodity in demand. People always need to be fed. They always will need to develop crops, and that's the global demand. I've talked about the team. Uh, Buffalo's been in the formation process for 8 years, and not only is our team experienced in governance, we've got a great independent board in place, but we also have a great team on the ground, both in finance and in engineering. Specifically, a former senior vice president with one of the majors, Peter Jackson, a chemical engineer with experience in potash solution mining. Quinton Hardage. Quinton and I worked on developing the potash solution mine directly across the road from our location at Disley. And Nick, Jordan, Morgan, who are our capital markets and finance team. So we are a team of Saskatchewan potash experts. Buffalo is the result of us getting our heads together and saying there's got to be a way to break into this business. It's a great business. People always need to eat. They always need to fertilize their crops. How do we do it, and how do we root ourselves right in the heartland of the world's potash production? As I said, we've been involved in the early stages of some of the other mines that you may have heard about. The BHP Jansen conventional potash mine, the K plus S Bethune solution mine. So we know the territory, we know the ground, we are technical experts. And I just want to point out to the listeners of the podcast right now, in Saskatchewan, there's two ways of mining potash. The first is to sink a shaft down about 1,100 meters to the potash beds. They're flat-lying, big, tabular bodies stretching hundreds of kilometers long and wide, and then accessing the potash beds through that shaft and physically extracting it with mining machines. The other way is to drill into it and pump water into the potash, dissolve it, and pump up a potash brine, because potash is very, very, very soluble. So those are the two ways of doing it. The mines to this date have been either conventional tunnel mines, or the two mines beside us have been solution mines. One thing about Buffalo is that we just got our listing on January 6th, and we have been really moving fast. I said earlier, we've been almost 8 years in design and planning. During that time, as a private company, we patented a mining technology that we believe will be disruptive to the industry and that we will use at our Disley project. We acquired the assets, the potash mining permits, and we also did the initial internal engineering work on our Disley showcase. In Q4 of 2025, we did a $7.8 million capital raise. We finished a RTO go public transaction. We got our listing January 6th, And we've been busy on the ground already. We've drilled our first confirmation well at Disley. We are launching a 3D seismic program. We're moving fast because our goal is to obtain our mineral resource estimate and a preliminary engineering or economic assessment, PEA, end of April, early May. So we're moving fast. Again, it's not an exploration story. It is about engineering, designing, and getting it built. This is getting a little more granular as to where we're located. We are adjacent to the K+S Bethune potash solution mine and the Mosaic Belle Plain potash solution mine. So we're literally across the road. This is important.
Steve, sorry, just
Yes.
to highlight here, I see a bit of a scale. The yellow box there looks like it's maybe 20 kilometers wide.
Yep. We are the yellow box. The gray
Okay.
box is K+S Bethune. The green box is Mosaic.
All
The
right.
lines that we see here, that is a major road and rail infrastructure corridor between two of the biggest cities in Saskatchewan, Saskatoon to the north, and Regina here to the south. That's important because potash being a material commodity, you've got to ship it. You've either got to get it into trucks or you need to get it on rail cars to move it. So you've got not only good deposit, we've got a good infrastructure location. We obtained this, there's two permits here. We've obtained it in 2022. And leading up to our capital raise, we shot a 3D seismic program over the area that is black. That allowed us to get an initial lay of the land and say, yeah, the deposit looks good. In January, we drilled one of two confirmation wells. This is where we go in, we cut a core of the potash beds, we assay it to determine grade. That goes into a mineral NI 43-101 mineral resource estimate. The larger blue area that you see here, that is an expanded 3D. We want to see how much more resource can we encompass, and the seismic crew is moving out there. Last I heard, this weekend. We plan to drill a second confirmation hole somewhere within this blue area. Another important point is that we're not the first people to drill here. There was potash drilling in the 1960s, and we have several legacy cores from the 1960s that we are reassaying using our modern methodology so that those will now be incorporated into our mineral resource estimate. The way potash is scoped out these days is with 3D seismic. This is what it looks like. Kind of want to see the red and the yellow. So it tells us where the sweet spots are. So again, from 2022 to today, we've done a lot of the groundwork on that. We've got the right geology. There's a fairly familiar path to determining the value of a junior potash company, the way it was done before. The K+S mine, which is across the road, its predecessor was a junior public company called Potash One. And I was the guy who put an X on the map and staked the original ground for what became a mine. Get the land, acquire some seismic drill program, expand that with 3D, get a 43-101 resource report, and then a preliminary economic assessment. We see this as a major milestone for us, and we hope to hit that milestone again end of April. That has been um, done by other juniors. So these are a number of catalyst points on that journey. Reaching that allows us to complete the financing to build the showcase. Our initial deployment is we're fully funded now at 7.8 million. We're looking at an extra 20 to 25 million that will come after that. After that point, that will allow us to construct the first installation of horizontal wells that then will allow us to begin dissolution and extraction and make that first bag. I like to call it making the first bag of potash. Each of these are catalysts along the way, and we're moving quickly down this path. Okay, the technology. What's the big deal here with the innovative technology? I've explained what a conventional potash mine is like. It's sinking a shaft, two shafts into the ground, depth of 1,100 meters, and then building a physical plant underground, mining machines to extract the potash crystal, get it to surface. That's very, 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 very expensive. You're looking at billions of dollars to do that. Traditional potash solution mines use vertical wells, and those vertical wells then connect one to the other to form cavities. What we're going to do is we're taking technology from the oil patch, the oil and gas service and supply sector, because all of us have some history in oil and gas, and we're turning those vertical wells on their side. We're creating a number of intersection points along those horizontal wells. So 3 horizontal wells effectively mimic the work of 30 plus vertical wells. Horizontal well like this, a couple $1 million. There's a lot of cost savings in doing it this way because you eliminate a lot of the vertical wells that you need. It allows us to mine out a big tabular area. It allows us to target the higher grade portions of the deposit and cut our OpEx, cut our CapEx down, and also manageable operating expense. So this has always been a barrier to entry for anyone wanting to produce potash in Saskatchewan. It is expensive to sink shafts and also drill all these vertical wells. We're getting around that by using demonstrated and tested oil field technology to link up and mine those beds. Where you don't climb a big mountain Martin in one go. You don't climb Everest in one effort. You establish a series of base camps to get up there, and we're doing the same thing. We've got a phased development plan for Disley where we start at about 125,000 tons per year, making a product called soluble grade potassium chloride or potash, ramping that up to 250,000 tons and then taking it to 500,000 tons. So 30 million will get us the 125,000 tons. To ramp it up, we'll need to add extra processing facilities so that we can ship to overseas buyers and markets. Overall, we're estimating that our CapEx per ton, between $900 and $1,000 per ton, which is reasonable and doable. The 125,000 tons per year out of the showcase, there's local markets for it, and that gives us early stage cash flow. We hope to hit that point within 12 to 18 months, and that will limit the amount of equity raises we've got to do, provide cash for operating expenses, and most importantly, demonstrate here's the facility, there's the product, assay it, test it. Anyone who wants to then invest to get their own supply, we're open to do business. Few quick words about capitalization. Fully diluted shares outstanding, 109.5 million. About 46 million of those are subject to voluntary lockup and escrow. So we do have tight control over what is out there. I think this sets the stage well to capitalize on any re-rates that occur. When we take a look at our peers, right now we are advancing to the point of a PEA and a mineral resource estimate. So our enterprise value 27 to 29 million right now, but you can see the rapid ramp up as those successive milestones are hit. So most of the growth curve in terms of enterprise value is yet to come. We're just executing the game plan that we've had designed for a while. That is the deck, Martin.
All right, Steve, thank you. In the world of potash, there's carnallite and sylvinite. What kind of deposit do you have, and does that make any difference in how it's processed, and I believe some of it is sort of amenable to solution mining, and other is more amenable to the call it hard rock mining.
Saskatchewan is lucky in that the deposit is relatively simple mineralogy. It is sylvite, which is KCl, and it is carnallite, which is magnesium potassium chloride. That's about it. And the deposit is well stratified. Generally, it's all sylvite or predominantly sylvite beds with some carnallite beds. Other places in the world, that ratio is reversed, predominantly carnallite with some sylvite. And in other areas, there are potash minerals, polyhalite, and others which simply are not soluble. For our Disley project, it is predominantly sylvite, and we are targeting to mine sylvite. So simple mineralogy, tested mining methods, solution mining methods, well understood chemistry is an advantage.
Your, let's call it your extraction, your horizontal drilling technologies is innovative for the potash world. Once you pump up that solution to above ground, do you have any other sort of innovative technologies there, or are you using the same basic technology? Because once you get the solution out, you have to extract the potash from the solution. Are you using standard technology there, or do you have a little twist to that as well?
We've added a twist to that in the sense that we have a patent pending or provisional patent on a mechanical crystallizer. Again, that is to save cost, to decrease cost. And one way to think about it, Martin, is that the chemistry of dissolving a mixture of salt, sodium chloride, and potash, potassium chloride, is fairly well understood. Potash, a solution that is saturated in salt, sodium chloride, will still dissolve potash because potash is more soluble than salt. So depending on the temperature, depending on how salty the solvent liquid is, that fluid will dissolve potash, but it won't dissolve the salt. When that solution is brought to surface, you cool the resulting brine. Suddenly, it's too cool to have all of that salt in solution. First thing that will drop out is the potash. So collect those crystals, dry them, and recirculate the now harvested brine back underground. So it is a circular loop. Inject, flow, produce at surface, cool, extract. That's the basic um, process.
So once you sort of fill the pipes and the caverns, you don't really, I presume there's some leakage, but you can reutilize and reuse the water over and over again so that you're not, call it a big consumer of fresh water.
That's a very good point, Martin. For those of you that know Saskatchewan, you know it's pretty dry out there at times, and water is a precious commodity, fresh water, potable water. Our process does not require fresh water. We can use a brackish water. In fact, we're looking at water from a geological formation called the Manville, about 550 meters down, and that water is salty. It's not saturated salt water, but it's a salty water. But the studies we've done to date indicate that it should dissolve plenty of potash. We're going to use that and thereby decrease, if not eliminate, the amount of fresh water that we have to use. This is a very important point for us because the fresh water is a resource that is required for surface agriculture, for communities, for other uses.
Your horizontal drilling, obviously, the oil and gas industry has been using that for, I guess, close to 20 years now. Um, uh, is this brand new technology? Are other people using it? Why haven't other people used it? And do you think there are like legitimate risks where you didn't know something, where all
Mhm.
of a sudden when you do it, it's like, oh, we thought that was going to work, and now we've got to we figure some stuff. Discuss the what you know and what the potential risks are with that.
I'll start with horizontal drilling technology in general. Presently, I would say the bulk of Saskatchewan's oil production comes from horizontally drilled wells. And those wells access conventional reservoirs. They are used to produce oil from tight formations, tight oil formations like the Bakken formation, and also extremely heavy crude oils. This is the steam assisted gravity drainage method, the SAGD method that is used extensively in the heavy oil sector. So to drill, the technology to drill horizontal wells, to run packer systems, as we propose to do, it's been done thousands and thousands of times. And one of the benefits we have being in Saskatchewan is a very strong oil field service and supply sector that knows exactly how this should be done. Connecting wells that are some distance apart uh, beneath or through the potash beds. Again, that is done by by the traditional solution mines, where vertical wells, 100 some meters apart, are first connected, and then caverns are made. So that too is done. Where Quentin Hardage and I, and he's president and chief operating officer, got the idea of utilizing horizontal wells for potash is we had worked on a heavy oil on a SAGD project. We put that together, sold that to Husky, and we said, now what if we did exactly the same thing, but we used it not to melt and dissolve heavy crude, but a potash bed. And that's where the horizontal line drive was born. It is using same technology, same approach that's done a lot in Western Canada, but just applying it to a potash bed. We're we're fairly satisfied. It will be a robust process, and you know, probably will take a bit of tweaking once we get down there, but it's not totally unknown, novel, or hasn't been tried before. The two of the or five of the legacy holes on our property, in fact, were potash solution mining tests done in the 1960s. And they use vertical wells and were able to connect vertical wells and solution mine potash using those wells. We're simply turning the wells on their side and running them through the beds and dissolving the beds.
And you said the beds are quite uniform. Is there a chance when you're going horizontal that, I don't know, the bed drops down and then you go into the other mineralization
Mhm.
there, or how do you is that one of the is that a legitimate risk?
It it is a risk, but that's why we're shooting 3D seismic. Our seismic contractors um, are probably the most experienced potash seismologists in the industry. And this is, for them, it is a routine analysis because it's the same risk that a conventional underground mine would face, where the mining machines are, chewing their way through a potash bed and oops, suddenly it's gone and they mine into something else. 3D, high quality 3D will let us identify those pitfalls. It'll also show us the sweet spots and it'll show us the orientation of the sweet spots. So for us, a critical tool is the 3D. When you step back and look at Saskatchewan as a whole, the potash beds are remarkably consistent. You can run sections and correlate individual clay seams and individual beds for hundreds of kilometers. So big picture, we're in a safe place. 3D will minimize a lot of the risk of drilling blindly into something that we don't want to drill into.
I believe you said that you're first with the 125 thousand tons here. That is roughly a $30 million capex. Did I get that right?
Yep, you got that. You got that right, Martin. It will be a first triplet. We'll have three horizontal wells, uh, two injectors, one producer. That will cover sufficient areas so that we can support that 125,000 tons. Um, we're estimating about 10 years because that horizontal plane, and it's a plane like a big football field, as we circulate through, will expand vertically to encompass more beds and also laterally.
How, given you like each hole going horizontal is more expensive than a vertical hole, but you just have to do many less than that.
Yeah.
For it to have that kind of production over that period of time, how much is the horizontal technology reducing your capex roughly?
Um,
Could you say that or?
that is, well, otherwise we probably would have to drill those three horizontals, replace at least 10 plus vertical wells. Vertical wells would be 1.5, each. The horizontals, and again, more of an engineering question, that's several $1 million per. It's a significant saving.
All right. If let's say things go bad and for whatever reason horizontal drilling doesn't work,
Mhm.
would this project, obviously you haven't done any of the economic studies yet, but could that, do you think that this could still be a viable project with vertical wells, just not as profitable? Or is it really the horizontal drilling that swings it into being sort of a net positive value kind of project?
Um, that's a bit of a speculative
It's very
question,
speculative. Yeah.
Martin, and it's, do we have a plan B or a plan C? There's twists we can do with the horizontals.
Yeah.
So I'm fairly confident it's not going to be a case where we throw up our hands and say, "Oh, that's it. Let's cement everything off and go home," nor go back to traditional ways. There's numerous different approaches and strategies that we've discussed. So I don't think there's anything existential out there that is going to say, boom, we're done. It's more a matter of getting the first three wells in and then gradually uh, introducing the fluid, connecting them, monitoring the concentrations as they come out, vary the chemistry so that we can hit an optimized production grade. I believe it's a fairly robust system. Again, when you're drilling, whether it's oil and gas or whatever, you've always got to be prepared for the boogeyman that comes jumping out of the bed.
Yeah.
We've got a great team, and in our careers, we've seen a lot of boogeymen come jumping out of the beds, and we've also been in situations where we thought there was a boogeyman under the bed, but when we shine the light, we don't see it.
With once you're producing, how are you like do you plan on structuring this? You mentioned selling into local markets, like have like part of the big potash producers, they've got these huge marketing arms to them. Are you planning on sort of matching your production with an offtake partner, or how does the marketing of your how do you envision the marketing of your potash? How do you think that's going to work?
I believe we can carve out a niche that is a fairly safe place for us to operate. There are buyers, global buyers, who are looking for security of supply, security of pricing, who may be looking for 200 to 300,000 tons per year. And for them to have their own bespoke mine, their own direct access to a supply, that's exactly what they want, what they're looking for. We've spoken to enough to give us confidence that once Disley is operating, once they can come, they can see the wells. I can give them that first bag. They can go analyze it, determine its quality. They will say, hey, we want that. That would be in the form of an offtake. It could be in the form of a joint venture where they would say, yeah, we want to take this up to 250 or 400,000 tons per year. And you know what? We'll pay for the expansion that's required to make this product shippable, overseas to our port in whatever country they're from. So it is modular in that sense, Martin. We don't need to build, 3 million tons per year capacity, but by adding more wells, adding more modules, we can expand to fill customers as they come to our door. I think that's a very useful and much more efficient use of capital than taking the plunge and building a large facility and hope that customers will be there.
You've got a lot happening this year, and you were even saying an into production in what, 18 to 24 months, I believe, potentially.
Well, the first, our plan is our first production 12 to 18 months.
And
Uh,
that would be at the 125 level, or is that sort of an initial level to get sort of test batches out?
um, I think that would begin with some initial test batches. Depending, how we twist the dials, it could ramp up very quickly. Our studies is that our work is based on coming on as soon as possible. We should be making potash very early in the process, and then it's optimizing that.
Can you discuss how much money you have in the bank right now and how far Like you've got your resource estimate, your economic study. How far into 26 or
Mhm.
27 and which milestones does your current your balance sheet allow you to hit?
The uh, the raise was 7.8 million. Of course, we paid for costs of the raise, and we've drilled one well. We're doing the 3D seismic. We've got enough to get us to the that first milestone, which is the PEA and the mineral resource estimate. We can get to that point, and that's a good point. We should see a re-rate at that time, and that I think that'll have good benefits to our stock.
And then from that point on, if that all turns out positive, then at that point you'd need to raise roughly $30 million and to sort of take it through the goal line.
It would be 20. Part of that would be debt because it would be purchasing equipment. The
Yeah,
first raise gets us to that PEA mineral resource estimate. And then
yeah,
the next phase is putting in the actual horizontal well triplets, the test bed crystallizer, the surface facility. So
yeah.
30 in all, we've got the first part covered. Then we'll go out for the second tranche.
Gotcha. And then that would obviously it's project financing, so there'd be a debt component
There'd
of
be a
that
debt
as well.
component, and people know of us. They'll learn more about the potash story. They'll say, "Yeah, I need some of that in my portfolio." We're moving quickly. Uh, there is demand required now. Mining has caught everyone's attention again. We are a mining story, so the time is right. We've got the wind in our sails.
We've got some audience questions here. Let's go through these here. Are you able to expand on the core results from the drill, geology above and below the core area, and how it supports the plan for HLD extraction? When will the formal core results be released?
Right now, the core from our first confirmation well is at the Saskatchewan Research Council, the geoanalytical labs. And this upcoming week, we will have our QPs and our technical team there at the lab where we will be examining it in detail. We will be marking out not me, but the QP team will be marking out the assay intervals. It'll be slabbed, and then we will be doing the assay. We also have we're quite a bit through a re-assaying program where we have the cores from those historical wells. They already have been slabbed and sampled. We should be getting results from those legacy cores here in the next week or two. I'm anticipating that whole process of assaying, and we'll be able to put out some initial preliminary results will be mid to end of March. Until that point, I don't want to be commenting on grades, thicknesses, or anything like that, but we are
Yeah.
undertaking that process.
Potash is very different than, let's say, gold mining in that you need many fewer holes to get a resource given the consistency of the deposit. And then can you make an accurate resource estimate with two holes? Is how is potash different from gold where you need a lot of infill drilling?
Yeah, it is different, and a lot of people have trouble with that concept right at the start because if you look at uranium or gold or silver, you literally have pinpricks, hundreds of vertical holes. That's because the deposit, the controls on mineralization are they're so variable. The potash beds are the result of the evaporation of an ancient seaway 440 million years ago. And it was a vast seaway like the Persian Gulf that dried up. And the salts contained in that sea were deposited as beds covering hundreds of square kilometers. Saskatchewan is not an active tectonic place. There's not a lot of mountain building or folding or fracturing, so the beds have stayed largely level. They're remarkably consistent, and there hasn't been that much post-depositional alteration. So you don't need, hundreds of holes or holes spaced maybe 100 meters apart to get a broad sense of how much resource is there. Um, Drill holes 3 kilometers, sometimes more, are sufficient to establish a reasonable and robust mineral resource estimate. I was involved in some of the first 43 101s that were done during the last potash boom, 2005, 2006. And when we came out with that, there were a lot of eyebrows raised. They said, what, your drill holes are, like 2 kilometers apart. Why are they not 200 meters apart? Well, it's a different beast we're going after. We're flat, tabular bodies that haven't been altered that much.
And I guess the 3D seismic supports that as well. You have another layer
Yep.
of validation with that.
We have another layer of validation with that. Again, seismic technology is so advanced these days. We have a drill hole now with modern borehole geophysical logs, so we can really dial it in well. We're integrating our 2022 3D seismic with the new chute. We're integrating our drill hole with it and the legacy drill holes to come up with a unified geological geophysical model for the Disley project.
Can you elaborate more on your previous slide where you mentioned already being approached for potash supply agreements?
There are buyers who have contacted us and said, we would like our own mine, we would like our own supply, and part of it is Saskatchewan is seen as a very stable jurisdiction. Its political regulatory system is 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 very stable. It's a known producing area for 50 plus years. There's the infrastructure. It is the place to be. Um, Buyers are seeking price stability. When the price of potash spikes because of geopolitical events, like it did during the Russian invasion of Ukraine, potash spiked to over $1,000 US. That's not good for the buyer because the average buyer in Greater Asia, other parts of the world, is operating at subsistence levels. So high prices are not good for that purpose. So there are those who say we would like our own long-term supply, and we have been contacted. Obviously, we want to get the showcase built. We want to get that uh, working because we're in a much better place to negotiate sensible and reasonable offtakes with that in hand.
Are you looking to or potentially licensing out your technology to other potash solution companies?
That's always a possibility. We're not actively looking to market ourselves as a tech company or say, hey, we're our we have a solution, convert your mind to our process. We're looking at it as the secret sauce that lets us get into what is actually a pretty lucrative business. So that's our focus. We want to use our technology to make and sell potash, not just the first 500,000 tons out of Disley, but into the future.
And is there your end game is your just gonna plan is to become, I don't know, a small medium even large producer of potash, or would you expect, or is it your plan to be taken out, which has happened so often in the industry, by one of the large potash producers, or maybe someone who just a big mining conglomerate that wants to get into the potash game?
Our game plan is pretty simple. Get the technology to work, make it and sell it and generate cash flow. That's our focus. If someone comes along, of course, we look at offers. We have to. That's the responsibility to shareholders. But is that our direct plan, our direct objective? No. It is to build a viable, scalable potash production and sales business, and to do that in the heartland of Saskatchewan. That's our focus over the next 12 to 18 months.
All right, Steve, we need to wrap it up here. Thank you very much. Can you just give us any final thoughts or words, tie a bow on it, so to speak, to leave viewers and investors with about Buffalo Potash and its opportunity?
Potash is one of the unseen critical minerals that Canada is fortunate to have in significant quantities and that the world desperately wants. So this is a huge advantage to Canada. It's a huge advantage to Saskatchewan. It's a business that we at Buffalo have always wanted to be in, and our technology allows us to do it. I believe everyone who is sort of forward facing should seek exposure to the commodity, and I think Buffalo is the way to go.
All right, Steve, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Martin.
Have a
Thank
great
you.
day. Bye.